Hiya, and welcome back to another episode of The Spirit of Creating. And today I want to talk about the idea of how perfectionism is a lie. It's a lie we tell ourselves, really to protect ourselves, but it's still a lie. And its symptom really is there's several symptoms of perfectionism, because you might not see yourself as a perfectionist. I didn't see myself as a perfectionist at all, because I would create and I would release and share it to the world. So I thought, I haven't got an issue with perfectionism. I don't mind if things aren't absolutely flawless before I set them free. But as this last year has progressed, I have started noticing a pattern in my own behavior and creative process. And the pattern was a symptom, which was I was forever starting again. So I'd start a project or a piece of work, and as I was following through, I'd get to about the middle stages of it, and I would either not see the value or the worth in it and then drop it, or I would see it through to the end, but nobody else would ever get to see it. So it would be a completed project that never got to see the light of day. And this pattern kept repeating. So new ideas kept coming, execution kept happening. And some part of the journey, some part of the beginning, middle, end part, it would just get deleted. It would stop. The process would stop. And that was a symptom of perfectionism, which I hadn't really seen until recently. And I wanted to go into it a bit deeper, because why was that happening? Why would that be a symptom? What's the kind of cause of that in the first place? Because the idea of something being perfect is arbitrary. We, as the creator of an idea, the execution of it, in the process of it, we decide to set these parameters, and we decide what we think is perfect or ideal. We decide that when we're creating, we'll know when we've reached the end point, because in our minds it'll be perfect, and then it's ready to be released into the world. But we've just made up these boundaries and parameters. They're not necessarily factual or real. They're just things that we've decided are our limits. And so then we go into the process of creating, and because we created the parameters, we're quite manipulative in our own ways. We can just keep moving these goalposts and they keep shifting. So you might say, oh, I'm going to do 5 designs for this new project, and you complete 5 designs like you said you would, and then you think 5 isn't enough, it should be 10. So then you just move the goalposts again, and you complete the 10, and then you decide the 10 aren't really good enough. What you think is we need a different color palette, and so you've just moved the goalposts again. And the signs are whatever you're creating never gets to reach an end point, and it definitely doesn't get to be shared out in the world. And underneath that all is a sense of not enoughness. What you're creating isn't quite enough. You're not quite enough. And if you could just hone your skills enough, if you could just perfect your art enough, then it would be ready to be set free out into the world and shared, maybe, or at least completed. But we don't ever reach that point, because not having enough, not being enough, not creating enough is in its own essence not enough. So you never reach that point. You just don't feel like it's enough. And we're waiting for this feeling, this sense within that will tell us that we've reached completion. This kind of, like a relief of, oh, I know now this is ready. And it's interesting, because if you are the one that's creating these imagined boundaries for perfectionism and you never reach them, that feeling of relief is never going to come, because you won't allow it to. So therefore, you're being dictated to by these imagined rules and this imagined state that you're going to feel within yourself, that's going to tell you and signal to you that now it's ready. And I'm kind of saying, how about we look at the idea of not feeling ready? Like, let's pretend we're never going to feel ready. That feeling's never going to descend upon us. We're always going to feel like there's more work to be done and there's more development to be made. So we want to just carry on plugging away. What if we committed to the idea that we are conduits for this creativity that's coming through us? So we're gifted an idea, which really is bespoke to us. It's an idea in its execution that only we could do through our vision, through our artistic voice, through our style. So it's come to us, and we have to, in that process, suspend all beliefs that we have, all rules, all ideas of perfectionism, and take ourselves out of the equation. So if we just see ourselves as conduits, as channels for this creativity, then the idea has come through us. We are now executing this idea. And if we just stay committed to the path of a beginning, middle, and an end, to say, I have this idea, I am now experimenting, exploring, I'm playing around with it, I'm creating, I've reached this end point. I'm not going to be the one that decides that it's perfect or it's ideal or it's hit the plateau I wanted it to hit. I am just going to say, I've seen it through its journey, and now I'm going to share it with the world. And let them judge it, or let them play with it, or let them enjoy it. It's not for me to decide whether it's perfect enough to be released. It's not for me to decide whether it needs so much more work because I need so much more work and I need to be more than I am. So therefore my art needs to be more than it is. If we could just see it as something that's come through us as a gift, it's been gifted to us, this idea, and the ability to execute on it has been gifted to us, and we have honed those skills. We're not naively just going into an arena that we have no skill set in. We have skill set in it. That's how we're able to execute in the first place. And then we just make it our job to be absolutely welcoming to all these ideas that come through us. And all we're going to do is play with them and experiment with them and explore with them as much as we possibly can, and create as much as we can in this way, and have these beginning, middles, and ends. And then we just release them. And instead of being like anxious about people's response to it, or feelings about failure or success with it, we are just moving on to the next idea, and we are moving on to creating again, because our job is just to create, and our job is just to keep that channel open and just keep being conduits to this creative inspiration that's coming through us and is gifted to us and is meant to be seen through our eyes and our vision and our perspective. It's a completely different idea to the idea of perfectionism and to our imagined selves and our imagined boundaries and parameters. So we don't have to be judge and jury of the process of when we're creating. We don't have to be the ones that get to decide whether it's good enough or not. We just get to play, and we just get to create, which is really what we came here to do as creatives. We want to create, and that's what we get to do. And we can have that creative process be a lot less painful and include a lot less suffering if we just allow ourselves to explore and experiment without putting this pressure, this overwhelming pressure of perfectionism on these creations. So this is just something I've been playing with as an idea. And since I've been playing with it like this, without this idea of having this idea of flawless end product that's going to be ready for the world and welcomed with open arms, I found that ideas are increasing, the enjoyment in creating is increasing, and there's not such a pressure. I don't feel so responsible for the outcomes to the level I had previously when these symptoms started appearing. So if any of you out there are experiencing any similar symptoms, if you tend to start projects and never finish them, if you finish tons of projects but never share them, if you never begin a project but you have lots of ideas, these are all symptoms of perfectionism. And underneath them all, there might be a feeling of not enoughness. And the truth is, we're all born enough. We are innately enough. What we are creating is enough. It's the process that we want to be engaged in. And the idea is a gift given to you because it's come through you, and it wants to be created through you. And that's all we really need to be focused on. So if you have any questions, or if you've had any experience of this, or if you want to talk about it a bit more, then feel free to message me at illustratingrain@gmail.com. And I'll be back again next week with some more musings on creativity. See you then. Bye.